back to Road Rage Rescues. Follow along today as we take our Lightning pickup truck steering wheel and change it to something more desirable and keep the cruise control. The original steering wheel looks like this. Of course it's leather, it's a really nice steering wheel, but it gets this black stuff in here, and it's the glue that glues the leather onto the steering wheel itself. Over time and heat cycles, it turns the foam and the glue inside there to like a tar that drips out. It gets all over your hands. I mean, this stuff is really gross. Ugh. It drips in the seat, which is really hard to clean off. I used some lacquer thinner to get mine off, but it wasn't easy. So what I like to do is go through and change it, veloce, very similar to the Monte Carlo steering wheel that Celine used in the Mustangs back in the 80s, all the way up to about 90, 91 when they went over to the airbag steering wheel. The problem with this steering wheel, there's no cruise control buttons. Celine had Momo make this piece, and now it's reproduced by SVE. You can get this at LMR. You have to use the Mustang buttons. They have screws that go in the back, or the identical looking Ford buttons have a clip that clips into this this copper piece. So make sure you get 85 through 89 buttons for Mustang to fit in this. One other difference you'll notice is on the set of Mustang buttons is they have a connector like this. The Ford pickup truck uses this little tiny mini connector, and it's really nice. So we're going to adapt this connector over to this set of buttons, or that set of buttons, and that way it'll plug right into this little piece that I took off. I robbed off the original part. The original steering wheel had 3 stanchions right here, and I cut those off. They're about this high, and they let it bolt onto the steering wheel and kind of kept it away, where these 3 brass rings would touch the 3 little contacts for the cruise control system that's inside the column. This is the Momo 4525 adapter for Mustang. They said it also fits Ranger pickup truck, Ford F150, all that other stuff. The difference is this ring is about a ½ inch away from touching those little contacts. I'll show you that in another part of the video. In order to make that work though, like I said, we took this piece off the original steering wheel, and this is another adapter, same as that one, but I took that 3 brass rings out, and I took and drilled this hole bigger. So this is the original plug for the F150, and now it fits right in there, as you can see, and it also turns with the steering wheel, which is going to be really nice. The problem being is that now you got these big open holes. To solve that problem, I bought a 12 by 12 sheet of grained plastic, smooth on one side, grainy on the other, pretty flexible. So we're going to do some other stuff. We're going to cut a strip of this. I'm going to cut a strip of this at the same width of this. We're going to glue that to this. The key is to put the seam on the bottom so that you don't see the seam when you're driving. To cover up these ugly holes, I took a piece of this and cut it out of that same piece of plastic. And we're going to glue that to this. And then we'll sand it to fit perfectly with this. And then this touches the contacts inside the column and also fits right in this. So those contacts are spring loaded, so they fit on this perfect now. Turn the wheel and everything's fine. Well, it'll be better when it's glued together. So if you're interested in seeing this and you use your stock cruise control, follow along as we make all this stuff work. All right, for this part I'm going to sit down for a minute. Makes it a lot easier to sand. So I have a piece of 180 grit sandpaper here. I'm going to scuff this real quick. Just to give it some tooth for the glue to bite into. Next we'll wipe it off with a paper towel. Then we'll sand this piece down. Next we'll scuff the outside of it off. So the outside trim piece, when we make that and get ready to go, that'll be all ready to go for us. All right, now we'll wipe this off with a paper towel just to get the dust off. Next, we get the glue ready. So we're going to start getting the glue ready to go. I like to put on these Harbor Freight gloves, 7mm thickness, just to keep this stuff off my fingers and hands. Oops. Because this stuff can take a while to come off. So generally what I like to do is I use this product. If I can get it out of the container, the gun. There we go. It's SEM Dual Mix 39747. It's a multi-purpose panel adhesive. Works really good for stuff like this. And if you want to glue other panels on to metal, or plastic to metal or whatever, it's a pretty good product. We're not going to use the tip in this case. We're going to mix it on a piece of cardboard and spread it with a Bondo spreader. So we'll take this tip off. I'm going to save this because this has already been used, so it'll seal it off and keep all the stuff from going bad. I have a piece of cardboard here. So we're going to squirt some out on this piece of cardboard. We'll probably squirt it out and make sure that one of these sides isn't plugged. Hopefully it's not. So it comes out in two parts. There's a darker part and a lighter part. Then release this to keep pressure off of that so it doesn't keep oozing out on you. And then screw this piece back on. It'll help keep it sealed. Then we're going to take this plastic spreader and mix this stuff up until it's all one color. There's some dried pieces in there. We gotta get out. We'll put those up there. So now it's all mixed into one uniform color. We'll put it on the pieces and put them together. Might be better to put it on this. Sorry about the chickens in the background. They're kind of cool though. Alright, so this stuff's spread on this piece. We're going to set it on this piece. put some pressure down on it, and it kind of holds some pressure on it. I'm going to take this glove off, and I'm going to grab this piece and set it on here to hold pressure on this. Kind of hold it flat. Make sure it's covered all the way around. All right, we'll give this a few hours to dry, and then we'll come out, take this piece off, and I'll show you what we got, and then we'll work on sanding this off and cut a new piece to put as the trim piece around this edge right here. Okay, where we left off last was we glued this piece of grained plastic onto the top of this cap so it looks a little nicer. And what we're going to do is put another piece right around this edge so it looks a little bit more finished. So I cut this piece off of one of the other pieces of plastic that I had that was the grain plastic. So we're going to glue it on this piece. And how we're going to do that is I marked on this there it is, a little dot right here. That's the bottom of where the bottom of the steering wheel is going to be. So I'm going to put the seam right down there. So when you're driving, you don't see the seam, you just see this up here. So I put some of this panel bonding material on this piece of cardboard, and I'm going to mix it up and spread it on this piece. And then I'm going to put this around there and then put this clamp on there to hold it while it dries till tomorrow. And then we'll see what we got. So let's get started. As we get gloves for safety, because this stuff gets on your hands and does not come off very good. So we're going to mix it up till it's all one color. There's not a bug on there. And then we're going to apply it to this piece to make it a little bit easier to control. So. And I have sanded both of these pieces down with some 180 grit sandpaper. There's the gold dots, and that's the bottom. So we're going to wrap this around there. Tighten this clamp up. Now when I sanded this top piece down, I left a little bit of an edge so it'll be above this new piece. So it'll be like, it'll fit like that. And then I'll sand that outside edge down so it's smooth. So I got it fitting all the way to the top. I'm going to tighten this clamp up and let it dry. stuff on my shirt. Figures. All right, now we'll wait and see what happens, and any part that oozes over the side, we're going to sand that off, and we'll probably paint this with some plastic paint or plastic dye. That's it for now. See you in the next video. Okay, so it's the next day. This stuff is cured really well. So we're going to take this clamp off and see what it looks like. Alright, so here's a pretty good look at it. It looks pretty nice. I got to sand this edge down a little bit, and we're going to do that next. Alright, we're going to sand this down. We're going to use 3 different types of sandpaper. Well, they're all the same type, right? It's 6-inch DA paper folded in half. 80 grit, 180 grit, 360 grit. So we'll sand the higher portions down with this 80 grit to try and get it leveled off, and then we'll smooth it out with the 180, and then finally with the 360. I'm not going to make you watch this whole thing. So in the time lapse, you saw me sand it down, sand this rough edge off with 80 grit. And when I got it sanded pretty smooth, I went over and around to the edge with this 180 grit. And you can see where the where the paddle bond is here. It's the lighter colored material, and then the darker colored material is the actual grained plastic. And then at the end there, I just, to get all the scratches out, I used this 360, and then I scuffed the whole thing off because we're gonna take and paint it with some plastic dye to make it match the interior a little bit nicer. We're gonna use a plastic cleaner, and then an adhesion promoter, and then a dye. Okay, we're done with this for right now, so we're going to move on to the wires so we can plug it into this plug here that connects it to this brass ring that picks up the power from the truck. So these buttons that I had to use for this to fit behind the steering wheel are from my '89 Mustang. So the colors of the wires are a little bit different. There's a black, a blue, and a purple. There's a black and a blue and a purple that goes to the on-off side. There's a blue and a black that goes to the Resume Set Excel. These are the buttons out of the truck. There's a blue, black, and yellow for the on-off side, and a blue and black for the Resume Set and the Coast. So I'm going to assume that the yellow will be the power. No, I take that back. The yellow is the ground. The blue is the power. So I'm going to connect the blue to the blue, the black to the black, and the yellow to the purple and orange stripe on this one. So we'll go ahead and clip these, and I'm not going to solder them in front of the camera, but I will solder them and put heat shrink tubing on them. And then we'll put the steering wheel together on the truck before we paint this, and we'll see if the cruise control works. Oops. Let's see here. Okay, where we left off was the other day, we had some wires to connect, and I had to make a connection to the ground for the horn button. The yellow is the horn button for the ground for the horn. So I soldered it soldered it here where it plugs into this with the rest of the grounds. Then the black and the purple will go to this button. So I also painted this piece black. It came out really nice. So I think it's going to look pretty good and quite a bit to the look and leave it looking complete. So now I'm going to hook all the wires up and let's see if it works. All right, now we're going to put this stuff together. We have this piece we made right here, and it goes on, it covers this hole, and it's going to touch these 3 pickup points. So we're going to slide this on and see if everything works. We'll put the screw in, the bolt in for the steering wheel. Okay, that feels pretty tight. Let me just plug this in. Okay, the horn button works. So we're going to set the steering wheel on here and bolt it down. Okay, here's the steering wheel. I'm going to slide these, I'm going to tuck these wires down inside here. And we're going to line the holes up on this. Usually start a couple screws for the steering wheel. We'll pop this horn button in here. Sweet. All right, that's done. Next step is to start it up, take it on the block, make sure the cruise works. So here we go. Put the key in ignition. Start it up. No lights. Everything seems to be working. Take it around the block. When I get somewhere where I can, sorry about that, get somewhere where I can have the cruise working, I'll start the video again. Okay, we are on a nice flat spot, so we're going to try the cruise. We're going to turn it on, and then we'll set it at about 40 miles an hour and see what happens. And there we go. Foot's off the gas. Everything seems to be working fine. The Excel resume button works. Oh wait, we'll hit the coast. We'll coast. Hit the resume, that's working. Hit the brakes, the switch goes, turns it off, cancels it. So everything seems to be working A-OK. We'll try the horn here real quick. We'll set the cruise, try the horn. That's all working. So I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. You'll notice that the steering wheel's off a little bit, and I'll explain that in the next episode where we changed the steering box. I didn't video that, but there's a difference between the steering link, or the steering arm off the box between the Lightnings and the standard F150 two-wheel drives. The Lightnings use 4x4 arm, and I'll show you the difference between the two. But for now, this is a wrap. We'll see you next time on Road Rage Rescues. Thanks. Ow!